Thank you for taking the time to watch this series of interviews. Our goal is to encourage and equip current and upcoming small group leaders. To do this, I will be talking with a variety of skilled facilitators. I like to think of it as mining the gold and sharing with others. The goal is to tap into the wisdom and experience of some truly fantastic men and women so that myself and others like me can become more effective leaders. Today, I have with me Pastor John Keeler. Hi, John.
How you doing? How's it going?
Good. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I've been, I actually have been here at Grace Community Church for about a little over 2 years, the executive pastor. So I have an opportunity to lead from an administrative standpoint and facilities and just overall functions of the church. I actually had a business background before I came here and felt the calling to come into ministry, but have had some leadership opportunities in my prior roles, and definitely had some leadership opportunities within the churches that I served at before I came here as well.
I'm a husband to Laurie and father to Bryce and Brooke. We've been attending Grace for about 11 years and been a small group leader and now a small group coach.
Can you describe yourself as a leader?
Well, no, that's a good question. I can describe myself, but I'm sure some folks maybe watching might describe me differently. I think, interestingly, my approach has been really the amalgamation of many different experiences in the business world, in the church world, and then just from my personality and my upbringing. I think jokingly, my wife and I always said that if I hadn't met her, I might have joined the military or something like that, because I lean on a more structured approach. I think many people that know me, know that I try to lead from a strong stewardship perspective. But one of the main things I constantly try to focus on is just being a leader who is willing to listen, willing to be challenged, willing to serve. I think that's one of the most important things, and being willing to bear others' burdens. And I think of great leaders in the Bible that we see, Moses and Joshua, and you think through examples of where it's not always fun. And as I tell my kids, leadership isn't about privilege. It's really more about being responsible and bearing the responsibilities of others. So I've enjoyed it. My background mainly was operations. So we were constantly, dealing with the problems, cleaning things up. But, more than anything else, I think being a genuine leader, someone who, practices what they preach, being willing to just jump right in the fire, and lead by example is the easiest way for people to follow you.
Yeah. So as a coach and a leader, can you describe yourself?
Yeah, I think of myself as a shepherd leader, somebody who is constantly trying to help people along and point people in the right direction, and really create an environment and a culture by where they can continue to grow. So that's really where I see myself as a leader, trying to serve others in that way.
Yeah. Churches today have what they call small groups at their church. At Grace, we call those groups discipleship groups. So what do you love about the discipleship groups here at Grace?
Well, what I love most about them is that they're Bible-based and that they're focused and intentional. I give a lot of credit to the folks before me who brought in a really strong discipleship model, I think back in 2012, that we can see the roots of and the foundations of, even 8 years later, where we're focused on really intentional discipleship, making sure that we're not, it's not all about people's opinions, because there really is a right and a wrong when the Bible's involved, but also, making sure that the relationships are pointing towards Christ, that, the foundational goal is that we want to move people further in their relationship with Christ, their growth, in their spiritual walk. And it's definitely fun. I have a great time. And, I don't know if many remember, but, a little over a year and a half ago when I was in a car accident, I wasn't even really established here at this church, didn't know a tremendous amount of people, but I saw my small group, just the meals they brought, the friendship, the ice cream that they brought for my kids, and just the love that I saw through our small group was just, it really touched my heart. And so for me, the great part of a good small group, good discipleship group, is one that is focused on the word, is focused on our spiritual growth, but you live life together, you share together, you serve each other. And, that's what I think we have here. And I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. And you said ice cream, and that's,
Yeah.
that got me interested. So
if many know me, that the vegetables that they brought were more for me, the ice cream was for the kids, but
talk about how discipleship groups have impacted you personally.
Yeah, so discipleship groups have been important to me and to our family. I think it's a place where we really do life together, and they really are different than maybe just doing a Bible study. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think what sets it apart at Grace is this idea of really being social, and the relationships that occur in our groups. I think you can go to any church in Frederick County and find a Bible study to join. You can Google it. You can go on YouTube. You can find Bible studies. Right Now Media, great authors, pastors, really great stuff to be able to study the Word. But discipleship groups are just different because of that the relationships, and that we've been able to, as we say, do life together and really be there for one another. And I think that those relationships are what help us to grow and really push us and stretch us in other ways. And we can be there for others. And I think that's really where discipleship is happening.
I'm so excited to talk with you today about the importance of intentional leadership. This is one of my favorite topics, and I know you're passionate about it too. So tell me, what is intentional leadership?
Well, for me, I think intentional leadership has a couple components. So it's, first and foremost, it's about being willing to serve others, and through the best way to do that is through relationships. Being very intentional about building relationships, being willing to invest in other people's lives, sharing their burdens, sharing, your vulnerabilities. I think as a leader, sometimes, at least I struggled with this most of my life. You feel like you have to have it all together. You want to, put on a good face and a nice smile, but just being willing to share your own stories, being willing to invest and understand, where people are in their spiritual walk. And we have a lot of terminology to kind of identify where people are in their growth, but being a listener, like listening for, where am I hearing these people, in their spiritual walk, so that I can be, a friend, a discipler. I can come alongside of them and help them where maybe they're struggling. And just you have to do that by really, being real with them and being intentional about your relationship.
I think, it's sort of in the name of intentional leader. It's about being purposeful, doing things on purpose. So whether that's selecting the study or selecting the questions that you're going to ask, when doing those things on purpose, it allows you to reflect on those choices, to make adjustments, for us to continue to grow as a leader. And so I think it starts with really doing things on purpose. I would say that an intentional leader prepares. So they prepare for the study. So they're not just kind of winging it that night. They've looked at the study, they've looked at the questions, they've looked at where the study is trying to go. Whether that's the the head, heart, and hands questions, so that they've looked ahead to know, okay, I want to spend more time here or less time there. So it starts with that preparation, and so that you can kind of know where you want things to go, and knowing your group members,
Yeah.
so that you know what they need and sort of anticipating the needs of the group. I also think intentional leaders are shepherd leaders. I talked about, that the discipleship groups are about doing life together, and that the discipleship and growth really happens in these relationships. And so an intentional leader is also, more than just doing the study. It's about focusing on the people in the group and their growth along this journey.
So what tips and truths can you give to someone who wants to be a better, more intentional leader?
Sure. And, you make a really good point. And I think we see this more now than ever, where we're in the middle of a situation where there's less contact, less, opportunity for physical relationship, or being in close proximity. But the importance of just our relationships with each other as believers. We exist together as one body. I mean, Christ, very clearly, the Bible lays it out. We're one body in Christ, and just the importance of that is really what should motivate us as believers to be there for each other. A few of the things I think on a practical level, and again, as I said before, I'm more, I like to structure things. I like to be deliberate about my time. Each of us have a limited amount of time, talents, and possessions. Each of us have a different amount of most of those, but ultimately it's not an unlimited supply. So for me, it's starting with making it a priority. So when I have my devotional time in the morning, when I spend time in the Word and prayer, it really comes down to starting with asking the Lord, where do you want me to serve today? What do you want me to do today? What opportunities are there? And just really listening for him to speak to you about what you can be doing today or next week, or different things coming up. I think that's the best way, because I could be overwhelmed easily from the number of things that you could do in a day, or things that need to be done, or places where people need your help. But the Lord, we have the Holy Spirit inside of us to lead us to those opportunities. So first, make time with Him, so that you can hear Him to make time for others. And that's been my biggest thing. And you can't ask God something that He won't give you if it's according to His will. So I believe He really wants me to serve. I think He wants me to use my gifts, my talents, my time. And so if I'm asking Him, I'm seeking Him and listening, He'll give us those opportunities. So, be deliberate about that. And then, act upon those promptings from the Holy Spirit. When you see that person, when you hear that prayer request, when you know of an opportunity. And at times it's interesting, because I have my devotions before I have my workout time. And then when I'm working out, like, people's names will come up, in my brain, like someone, I really need to reach out to them. Who, I wonder what they're doing right now. And acting on that, checking in with people, investing in them. It's not going to just happen by, me sending an email once a month to someone. That's not really, going to be real. But looking for those relationships, whether it's 2 people, it's 10 people, it's 5 people, but looking for who God wants you to intentionally invest in, or develop a relationship with over time. But that's been the most effective way for me, just really being intentional about it.
So tell me about someone in your life who you think has excelled at intentional leadership.
Yeah, I think there's maybe many people that have been intentional leaders, but I think they have similar characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
I think they focus on the people, maybe more than the study. And it's not to say that the study's not important, and that kind of thing, but they're looking at where is the group, needs, and if they're sharing their heart, we're spending our time there, and not so rigid on, but we've got to get through these questions, or we've got to get to, a certain part of the study. They've communicated well. Intentional leaders communicate well to the point where it helps you to know what to expect. You know what to expect in the study. I'm not worried about, childcare or, these things that can really take up space in our brains that don't allow us to really connect with the study, because I'm worried about other things. So intentional leaders really take some of those things off of our plates. And they invest in people. They listen well. They ask how they can pray. Intentional leaders follow up, and they do things outside of group time as well. So it's not just about that specific set time that the study is taking place, but they're checking in. It's a text, a phone call, and praying in between those study sessions that continue to help us to connect with each other, and so that leader can know, again, where are the needs of the group, and how can we move forward in the best way.
So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges to being a small group leader?
For me, the biggest challenge, the most frustrating thing for me is when, people are not interested in changing. Or they're not interested in growing, because ultimately, I used to say this to people that I supervised in my prior role. This is your career is a shared ownership. You own it ultimately, where you go, what you do. You have to actually invest in yourself and move forward in your career. But I'm here to equally help you, guide you, keep you from the roadblocks, give you the right challenges. And it's the same thing with discipling. In a small group setting, in a men's group or a one-on-one, if I'm the leader or I'm helping to disciple folks in our small groups, it's definitely a shared ownership. I want to help them along, but I can only help as much as help is wanted. So what I find frustrating is, people that might have an emotional commitment to something, or they might say that they're interested in growing, and then, they really don't want to do the work to get there. And I think, it's like at the beginning of this pandemic, I wonder how many people before the pandemic said, if only I had more time, I'd spend time in the Word. If only I had less activities for my kids, I'd get up early and exercise. And yet here we are 5 or 6 months later. It's the same thing with our spiritual life. You can say you want to grow and you want to become closer to God and, learn more about the Bible, but that doesn't happen without an intentional movement on your part. So that to me is the biggest frustration, where little squabbles or disagreements and challenges around the room, that happens, and those are sometimes even fun. But it's really when you your heart goes out for someone, you're like, oh, but if only you realized what it would mean if you really started investing in your relationship with God, what that could do for you, and the disappointment if they don't respond.
We're going to talk about challenges and rewards. Let's start with, what do you think are the biggest challenges, or a big challenge for leading a group?
Yeah, I think I think the time commitment is probably the biggest challenge. I think it's important that if we're going to choose to lead, that we're taking that commitment serious, for the purposes of our group members.
Right.
And so there's a lot that goes into being a leader. So whether you're prepping for the study, selecting the questions, actually doing the facilitation, you have to, are you also hosting? Is there going to be snacks? Is there communication and emails that maybe need to go out? So So many things that happen just to pull off the actual study time. And then we talked about shepherding your group and things that need to happen outside of the group time, committing to pray for your group members. So, there is a commitment here in terms of time, and if you're going to choose to be a leader. I would also say another challenge is getting group members to connect with one another. I think naturally they feel a connection to the group leader because you're the one doing the communication. And as the leader, you're being intentional about checking in and about praying for your members. And so um, it's easy for the group members to just have this natural connection to the leader. But as a leader, one of the challenges is facilitating the group in such a way that the group members are connecting with each other. And so that would be another challenge that I would say about, leading a discipleship group.
What do you think are some of the greatest rewards of leading a small group?
I'd say the greatest rewards are when you see someone grow and have this joy that they found, almost being surprised that they could have it, and just when people start to serve, like I've been able to disciple others in small groups and encourage them to get involved and to serve. I believe 100% that service, using your spiritual gift, is one of the most important things to your spiritual growth. So when you see someone who starts as an attender, they go to a group, small group, they kind of dip their toe in, and then you fast forward and you start to see, they're leading, they're serving, they're helping out, they have this joy, and they're growing in their understanding of their relationship with God, and just seeing that start to multiply. I love seeing people move on and then start their own small groups, and really the impact that can have. And I think as a leader, it's always one of those challenges. We're doing this for God. We're doing this, and we have the opportunity to be a part of His work. But isn't it really, just heartwarming when you get to hear that confirmation, as a leader, where along the way, either letters written or people, explaining, hey, that really made a difference. It really helped me change and remove some of the things that were hindering me in my, my spiritual walk. Just sometimes being able to see that on this side of heaven. But, I just can't wait to see, for all of us, for all the impact it really has. That's the only place I'll say I'm a dreamer. I know that, when I get to heaven, we're going to see the impact of so much of what might have even been frustrating here on earth. But the true impact of what we've sown here. And that's my greatest motivator.
What's a great reward of being a small group leader?
Yeah, I think, the reward is certainly the intimate relationships that you have in your group. I talked about connecting with the group members, and that connection that you have. And that's really the reward that I see. So obviously there's rewards in seeing people grow in their faith and grow in discipleship. But personally, I think it's also this network. In our discipleship groups, there's a small little network that become really close, and that will pray for you and that will be there to support you. We've been able to celebrate, some really great joy in our lives and in the lives of our group members, whether that's, having children or becoming a grandparent or promotions at work, or, just all of life's, great joys. We've been able to be there with each other and celebrate, and also to have the support in some of the things that have been really difficult with family members and loved ones passing away, disappointments, struggles in life. So there's been a lot of things that we've had that support. And I think as a leader, again, you get to have that intimate relationship, and that would be a reward as to being a group member as well. I know I'd mentioned before um, this connection and support that you have, and I want to share that, you know, as a man, it's a little bit different. I see the relationships that my wife has with women in the church or in our group, um, and it's just a little bit different. And so, as a man, being a part of a discipleship group, I think, is where you find really deep connections. I'd heard once, that, you know, how many men, you know, do you know that, you know, or if you asked the men in your lives, you know, who could you call at 3 a.m. that's not family, that would answer the phone, stop everything, you know, do whatever, and that would be there to pray for you? And I guess to take that one step further, you know, how many men do you feel comfortable calling at 3 a.m.? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we like to think of ourselves as being some, oh, well, yeah, if they called me, I would support them. Um, but would, you know, is our relationship to the point where they would feel comfortable calling me? And so I think those kinds of, you know, that level of intimate relationship where, you know, there are men or members of the group that I would not only trust would be there to support me, but I would feel comfortable calling them if I really needed them anytime, day or night. And so I see that as a great reward.
Yeah, it's a joy and a comfort. And you said it well. So, this is the last thing I'm going to ask, but let's say, and it's true, I want to be the best small group leader I can be. What are some important things I need to know?
Yeah, I would say don't go it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't try to do everything on your own. I mentioned about the time commitment and all the different things. You know, we could list out all of the jobs that you have to get done as a small group leader. Um, but it's really about facilitating and delegating and those responsibilities. I think you give other members of your group an opportunity. Um, you know, when you allow them to lead a study, or you allow them to lead a prayer, or um, you know, rotate who's going to do snacks, or if you have someone who's willing to host, taking some of that burden off of you is really important, that you're not trying to do everything. It doesn't make you less of a leader because you're not doing every single, you know, piece of it. So it can feel like a burden if you're trying to do everything, and it can be overwhelming, especially over time. You know, as a new leader, you may, you know, want to take on everything, but after so much time of that, it can, you know, burn you out, and we don't want that to be the case. So I would say right from the beginning, as much as you can, you know, try to delegate and facilitate so that you just become the coordinator of all the things that need to happen, as opposed to having to actually do every single step of being a discipleship group leader.